Hi, my friends, it's Thursday, and it feels like it's been Thursday for about 300 years today, partly because Governor Evers, our governor here in Wisconsin, has extended the stay-at-home order until May 26th, which sounds like it's going to be forever. But it's not. We're going to get through this, and we are doing the absolute best we can by following the advice of medical professionals and hospital workers and all of those things. And it may not quite seem like it's working if you listen to the news too often. But what I know is the number of people who need to go to the hospital with COVID-19 in Wisconsin is decreasing. And so that is a very, very good thing that we're keeping our hospitals nowhere near their capacity. We're keeping them down here where they can take care of everybody and provide the care that those folks need who become very seriously sick with this terrible, terrible virus. And it's going to be a long wait. And I know some of us are tired and grumpy and angry and frustrated and all kinds of things. But I promise we're in this together and that we're going to figure it out. And someday it will feel like it's okay to go back outside and hang out with our friends and be together and all of those wonderful things. And it's going to feel amazing. But in the meantime, we have to wait. And I'm not actually very good at waiting. I'm probably pretty terrible at waiting. And so I thought today maybe we should have a book about waiting. And it's an old friend book to me, about an elephant, kind of. Horton hatches the egg. That's Horton, by Dr. Seuss. And I promise my sniffle is just that I have allergies because everything is pollinating and blooming, and the weather is supposed to be absolutely gorgeous in a couple of days. Horton hatches the egg. Sighed Maisie, a lazy bird hatching an egg. I'm tired and I'm bored. And I've kinks in my leg from just sitting here day after day. It's work. How I hate it. I'd much rather play. I'd take a vacation, fly off for a rest if I could find someone to stay on my nest. If I could find someone, I'd fly away free. There's Maisie on her little polka-dotted egg. Then Horton the elephant passed by her tree. Hello! Called the lazy bird, smiling her best. You've nothing to do, and I do need a rest. Would you like to sit on the egg in my nest? The elephant laughed. Why, of all silly things, I haven't feathers, and I haven't wings. Me on your egg? Why, that doesn't make sense. Your egg is so small, ma'am, and I'm so immense. Tut, tut, answered Maisie. I know you're not small, but I'm sure you can do it. No trouble at all. Just sit on it softly. You're gentle and kind. Come be a good fellow. I know you won't mind. I can't, said the elephant. Please, begged the bird. I won't be gone long, sir. I give you my word. I'll hurry right back. Why, I'll never be missed. Very well, said the elephant, since you insist. You want a vacation, go fly off and take it. I'll sit on your egg and I'll try not to break it. I'll stay and be faithful. I mean what I say. Toodaloo, sang out Maisie, and fluttered away. There she goes. The first thing to do, murmured Horton. Let's see. The first thing to do is to prop up this tree and make it much stronger. That has to be done before I get on. I must weigh a ton. Then carefully, tenderly, gently he crept up the trunk to the nest where the little egg slept. Then Horton the elephant smiled. Now, that's that. And he sat, and he sat, and he sat, and he sat. And he sat all that day he kept the egg warm, and he sat all that night through a terrible storm. It poured and it lightninged. It thundered, it rumbled. This isn't much fun. The poor elephant grumbled. I wish she'd come back, 'cause I'm cold and I'm wet. I hope that Maisie Bird doesn't forget. And his trunk is all droopy. But Maisie, by this time, was far beyond reach, enjoying the sunshine way off in Palm Beach, and having such fun, such a wonderful rest, decided she'd never go back to her nest. Oh, there's Maisie Bird. So Horton kept sitting there day after day, and soon it was autumn. The leaves blew away, and then came the winter, the snow and the sleet, and icicles hung from his trunk and his feet. But Horton kept sitting and said with a sneeze, I'll stay on this egg. I won't let it freeze. I meant what I said, and I said what I meant, and elephants faithful, 100%. So poor Horton sat there the whole winter through, and then came the springtime with troubles anew. His friends gathered round, and they shouted with glee, Look, Horton the elephant's up in a tree. They taunted, they teased him, they yelled, How absurd! Old Horton the elephant thinks he's a bird. That's not very nice of Horton's friends, is it? They laughed and they laughed. Then they all ran away, and Horton was lonely. He wanted to play. But he sat on the egg and continued to say, I meant what I said, and I said what I meant, and elephants faithful, 100%. There's poor Horton. No matter what happens, this egg must be tended. But poor Horton's troubles were far, far from ended. For while Horton sat there so faithful, so kind, 3 hunters came sneaking up softly behind. That is a very not nice thing to do. He heard the men's footsteps. He turned with a start. 3 rifles were aiming right straight at his heart. Oops, there's the rifles. Did he run? He did not. Horton stayed on that nest. He held his head high, and he threw out his chest, and he looked at the hunters as much as to say, Shoot if you must, but I won't run away. I meant what I said, and I said what I meant, and elephants faithful, 100%. But the men didn't shoot. Much to Horton's surprise, they dropped their 3 guns, and they stared with wide eyes. Look! They all shouted, Can such a thing be? An elephant sitting on top of a tree? It's strange. It's amazing. It's wonderful, new. Don't shoot him. We'll catch him. That's just what we'll do. Let's take him alive Why, he's terribly funny. We'll sell him back home to a circus for money. Sorry, I had to stop the cat from scratching the sofa. So there's the hunters. And there's Horton. Not so sure about their plan. And the first thing he knew, they had built a big wagon with ropes on the front for the pullers to drag on. They dug up his tree and they put it inside with Horton so sad he practically cried. "We're off," the men shouted, and off they all went with Horton unhappy 100%. Now, my young friends, don't get worried. Horton's going to be okay, and so will the egg. I promise it's all going to be okay. Up, out of the jungle, up into the sky, up over the mountains 10,000 feet high. Then down, down the mountains and down to the sea went the cart with the elephant, egg, nest, and tree. There he is. Then out of the wagon and onto a ship, out over the ocean, and ooh, what a trip. Rolling and tossing and splashed with the spray, and Horton said day after day after day, "I meant what I said, and I said what I meant, but oh, am I seasick 100%. After bobbing around for 2 weeks like a cork, they landed at last in the town of New York. "All ashore!" the men shouted, and down with a lurch went Horton the elephant, still on his perch, tied onto a board that could just scarcely hold him. Bump! Horton landed, and then the men sold him. Which was a very not nice thing to do. Sold to a circus. Then week after week they showed him to people at 10 cents a peek. They took him to Boston, to Kalamazoo, Chicago, Weehawken, and Washington too, to Dayton, Ohio, St. Paul, Minnesota, to Wichita, Kansas, to Drake, North Dakota. And everywhere thousands of folks flocked to see and laugh at the elephant up in a tree. Poor Horton grew sadder the farther he went, but he said as he sat in the hot, noisy tent, "I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%. I suppose we would have all had to go to St. Paul, Minnesota if we wanted to see Horton at the circus. It's the closest place in the list to us. Then, one day, the circus show happened to reach a town way down south, not so far from Palm Beach. And dawdling along way up high in the sky, who, of all people, should chance to fly by but that old good-for-nothing bird, Runaway Maisie, still on vacation, and still just as lazy. And spying the flags and the tents just below, she sang out, "What fun! Why, I'll go to the show." There's Maisie. And she swooped from the clouds through an open tent door. "Good gracious," gasped Maisie, "I've seen you before." Poor Horton looked up, with his face white as chalk. He started to speak, but before he could talk, what do you think might happen? Something's going to happen. There rang out the noisiest, ear-splitting squeaks from the egg that he'd sat on for 51 weeks. A thumping, a bumping, a wild, alive scratching. "My egg!" shouted Horton. "My egg! Why, it's hatching!" There's Maisie. There's the egg. 51 weeks he sat on that egg. That's almost a whole year. "But it's mine!" screamed the bird when she heard the egg crack. The work was all done. Now she wanted it back. "It's my egg," she sputtered. "You stole it from me. Get off my nest and get out of my tree." Poor Horton backed down with a sad, heavy heart. But at that very instant, the egg burst apart, and out of the pieces of red and white shell, from the egg that he'd sat on so long and so well, Horton the elephant saw something whiz. It had ears and a tail and a trunk, just like his. There's Horton. And there's the baby hatchling. It's got wings like Mama Bird Maisie, but everything else looks like Horton. And here's Leah for a momentary interlude. That was how she squeaks. You want to see the baby bird flump? And the people came shouting, "What's all this about?" They looked and they stared with their eyes popping out. Then they cheered and they cheered and they cheered more and more. They'd never seen anything like it before. "My goodness, my gracious," they shouted, "my word, it's something brand new. It's an elephant bird." And it should be like that. Because Horton was faithful. He sat and he sat. He meant what he said, and he said what he meant. And there they are. And they sent him home happy 100%. And there they are. The end. So we have to sit and sit and sit. It won't be 51 weeks, but it's going to feel like about 51 years sometimes. And sometimes we'll have wonderful, fun things to do that will make us happy. And sometimes it will be boring. And sometimes we will be sad and grumpy and uncertain and confused and afraid. And all of those things are okay. It's okay however you feel about this very strange and peculiar time we're living in. None of us have ever done this before. And so we're all trying to find a way, to make a way and to adapt and to change the ways we've always done things so that it fits better the time we're living in. And I'm doing that, and you all are doing that, and that is a wonderful thing. And I'm going to tell you again how incredibly proud I am of this job we're doing in our preventative distancing so that we can take care of people we know and people we don't, and people here at home and people on the far side of the world, so that we can keep people from getting sick and protect our wonderful nurses and doctors and janitors at hospitals and cooking folks and orderlies and techs and all of those people who make our healthcare system what it is. So until tomorrow, when we will have a different book because it's a different day, I want you to remember, what is it I want you to remember? I want you to remember how very incredibly much I love all of you. Bye-bye.